Thank you all. It's an honor to be here with you to give this talk to you all. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Jocelyn, and I was invited here today to talk about the importance of recognizing and respecting the various different identities, labels, and flags of the LGBTQIA+ community. And I will, if you want me to, if we have enough time at the end of this speech. But more than likely you'll already know about many of these. Some of you probably already living your best gay lives. So you don't need me patronizing you. We live in the 2020s after all. So why waste my time and yours going over info you can Google in 5 seconds? So instead, I'll give you a perspective so completely unique to me and explain why acceptance and rights are so much more important than understanding and memorizing a bunch of labels. As a young child, being pushed into growing up as a boy against my will was the hardest thing. I was never like the other boys. I fit in way better with the girls. And it was painfully visible to just about everyone around me. There is often a pressure to conform in school, which I clearly could not muster. I faced endless bullying and taunting and teasing and intrusive personal gotcha questions, something I know many queer people can relate to, as sadly is just a common growing up experience. Teachers and adults also were not on my side, treating me a certain way, telling me what I must look like, what I must do, and I was grouped in with these boys that I just did not fit in with, whom I had almost nothing in common with. Even calling me a boy was painful, unpleasant, and wrong to me. I knew that I was something else. I played with dolls and nail varnish. I raided my mum's wardrobe for dresses and shoes and perfume. I desperately wished to grow out my hair, which I was not permitted to do. But most revealing was when I did tell people, counselors, behavioral psychologists, whomever, that I felt like a girl, that I wanted to be a girl. This was coming from me, and bearing in mind, this was in primary school, and as a very young, vulnerable child. I attended school from 89 to 01. I tell you this to give you some context. Firstly, if you do the maths, you'll work out I look good for my age. But more relevant throughout the entire time that I went to school, Section 28 was in full effect. Introduced by Margaret Thatcher's Conservative government, it was legislation in effect from 1988 to 2003 in England and Wales at least. It stated that a local authority shall not intentionally promote homosexuality or publish material with the intention of promoting homosexuality or promote the teaching in any maintained school of the acceptability of homosexuality as a pretended family relationship. So even the teachers that might have been cool with it couldn't open their mouths without risking their jobs, not to mention all the closeted teachers themselves. Also, in the 90s, the internet was not as widely ubiquitous or accessible as it is today on computers, let alone mobile phones. And for queer people, educating ourselves was not an option. There were no forums or YouTubers talking about being gay or trans. I found myself quite alone with no community, thinking myself to be the only one, and having a bigger imagination than small town mindsets would allow for. Again, something many queer youths can relate to. The only representation I saw on TV and in movies, well, it was bad. Shows like Jerry Springer and Ricky Lake, over-sensationalized gay and trans folks, treating us like a spectacle, a freak show. The language used on those shows has not aged well, both politically incorrect and also just inaccurate by today's standards. Trans people with no better terminology coming out to their partners in such a way as saying, "I was born a man's, honey." We cringe at that now. Thinking also of movies like from that era, such as Ace Ventura or Silence of the Lambs, where the plots hinge on the villain being some form of trans, but not properly explaining the trans experience and promoting that idea that trans is at best a disgusting punchline and at worst a deranged psycho. This messaging diffused itself throughout society at the time, reached my young brain and taught me that trans equals bad. And being gay was not treated any better. On a personal level, I heard all the homophobic slurs on the playground, as well as the eye-rolling, widespread use of the phrase, "That's so gay," as a pejorative. On a wider societal level, the AIDS epidemic was still a black shadow over the whole notion of gayness. The two were very inextricably linked through lack of understanding and willful ignorance. The narrative was that gays were dirty and that AIDS was a death sentence. In my secondary school, a place that I've recently learned collapsed after a new rebuild, gender roles were very strictly enforced, and I don't just mean separate changing rooms. As deeply uncomfortable with that as I was, I understand the need there. I mean separate uniforms, queuing separately, even some of the classes were taught separately, still, in the 1990s. I had a mix of teachers there, some quietly supportive, but as I previously mentioned, unable to really say anything. Others forcing me to suppress myself into an ill-fitting pigeon box of boring grey boyness. Ugh. But there it was also I had kind of a eureka moment. After really being pushed to question my sexuality and doing what I can only describe as soul-searching at the precocious age of 14, I came to the realization that I'm attracted to guys and I am extremely gay. And then the whole school found out, which is a path I do not recommend. After leaving school and starting college, I found I had much more freedom than before, able to express myself finally, no longer surrounded by immature little kids, making all these fun discoveries that most teenagers get to do. Finding my identity through clothing, hair, makeup, music, art, and my sexuality. Finally, dating guys like I always knew I wanted to do, joining the college LGBT group. The T, I will point out, had just been added at that point, which was key to learning that we're everywhere. Trepidly venturing into the gay scene for the first few times and feeling like a visitor, not a resident. Some things have not changed. But it was a new millennium with bright possibilities. Circumstances conspired against me, and I left home to live in the YMCA, where I was introduced by one of my neighbours there to the marvel of Eddie Izzard. We would stay up all night watching these old videotapes, like VHS, yes, and get stoned. Good times. I am hereby obliged to disclaim that previous statement, and I cannot publicly recommend the usage of illicit substances. Wink. Anyway, Eddie Izzard, who has also now added the name Susie, but at the time had not yet, wore the mantle of transvestite. And I knew this was the same for me. I had bought bras and skirts and thus recognized a kindred experience when I saw one. And then at 18, I had found a label that fit better than anything before. I mean, I knew of the term transsexual, those people who had fully changed their bodies and had the surgery. I knew that wasn't right for me, so I didn't seek out the medical intervention at the time, and I hadn't previously considered myself as trans, which, as a standalone word, was not widely used. Still, I had that innate, unchanging compulsion to be feminine. I lived quite literally as a girl in a femboy's body for years. Again, terms that weren't really used back then. I had changed my name back in October 2008. Don't ask about the dead name, mine or anyone else's. Those of us who have changed our names did so because we didn't want to hear the old ones. And also, by default, people around me switched to using she, her pronouns, which made me feel so much better, closer to the real me. But this was not to be the end of my gender discovery journey. Since then, nothing much changed after I moved away from small town Bridgewater to Taunton 10 years ago now, and attended college as an adult, which provided me with ample situations to come out to brand new people. And also to be misgendered by one tarty chav girl, who was an issue. In my second year, I joined the LGBT+ group. Doing research for them, in turn, got me involved in the YouTube sphere of queer people, talking about their experiences, having the freedom to experiment and explain the multiple labels that arose around the mid-2010s. I learned about the wide range of their queer expressions, and through these discoveries, I found people whose feelings and experiences and identification matched my own with great levels of similarity. It was inevitable that this was how I discovered my own non-binary gender. I had forever lived betwixt the genders, yet external of pigeonhole boxes, man, woman, boy, girl, this whole new dimension beyond the binary, I had no idea I could break free from. So naturally, I started my own YouTube channel to join the online conversations, to make videos that are educational, profound, and personal. Which brings us at last to the present. It's the 2020s. The future is now. Information is so much more readily and ubiquitously available than it ever has been before. And to match this increase, the number of LGBTQIA+ people confident enough to come out and not just live their truth, but publicly speak on it is ever increasing, pushing society towards openness, tolerance, and acceptance. I should feel hopeful for the future. But with visibility comes an unfortunate backlash. Many religious communities insist on being stubbornly anti-progressive, with reactions ranging from patronizingly passive-aggressive, hate the sin but love the sinner, all the way over to calling for our violent extermination. Leaving aside the superstitious extremists, the political landscape has proven more powerfully terrifying, stripping away legal rights and protections for us, as well as spreading a disinformation campaign, maligning us in the media, using us as pawns in the culture war that we didn't start. You may have already heard the accusations levied against us. Gays are grooming children. Drag queens are indoctrination. Trans women in bathrooms are predators. Gods forbid a child so much as looks at a rainbow, lest they turn queer, or at the very least start respecting other people's pronouns. The horror. The lyrics might have been updated and given a modern spin, but bigots are still singing from the same songbook as the past. Sad to say, I cannot foresee things improving much in the near future. The fear-mongering around biological sex being erased, which it's not, will leave a lasting mark on society. Transphobes are already so paranoid. They will accuse an androgynous woman of being trans just for not conforming to their narrow version of femininity. This deranged behavior coming from the group of "we can always tell." Regressive and anti-trans MPs who have little to no understanding of gender are currently trying to pass laws prohibiting basic education in schools about LGB and especially T people, in a move some of us recognize as Section 28 2.0. I tell you, it is tough being trans in this decade, but I'll continue on as I am. I cannot choose to be anyone or anything different, even if I wanted to. No closet can contain this. Also, in my personal life, I am surrounded by people who do accept and support me. Maybe by improving myself, my understanding, and influencing others to be more accepting, I can play my small part in turning things around. Love is love, as the slogan goes. Love of a partner, no matter what sex or gender you both are. Love of oneself, regardless of whether your gender matches your sex assigned at birth or not. Even having the inner peace of accepting that you have little to no romantic or sexual attractions. Choose love. Any questions? I tell you, it's hard. It's hard reading. Oh, I'm nearly done. Don't fucking make me crack now. Some of us recognize as Section 28.20. Fuck. Love the sin but hate the sinner. No. Fuck, that's the wrong way around. Doing research for... fuck's sake. Oh, shit. Okay, that's all.